strange days in my life, believe it or not, and this one kind of popped out at me the most. It started all in my 4th grade elementary year. I was about 8 or 9 years old. It was late December, so Christmas break was coming up. And I had this kind of annoying, needy friend, not really annoying, just kind of clingy. And she was just kind of like, oh, let's go to the bathroom all the time, you know, type friend. And then she popped the question. She was like, hey, what are you doing over Christmas break? I was like, oh God, you know, I have to spend the next 2 weeks if I can't come up with something. So I just started kind of coming up with this white lie. And the first thing that came to my head was the overly commonly used, you know, my grandma and grandpa died kind of thing. So I was like, you know, I'm so sorry, my grandpa died of a heart attack, and I'm going to have to spend my next 2 weeks in San Diego, that's where my family lives, for his funeral, so I don't think I'm actually going to be able to hang out, like, the whole 2 weeks period. And she bought my white lie, and my deed was done, and I was off the hook. So I went through my regular routine that day at school, came home that day, ate a couple snacks, you know, waited for my dad to get home from work, and he got home from work and we started doing our usual, you know, making dinner. And during dinner, me and my sister were just talking and the phone rang. And I heard my dad walk up and go get the phone, and all of a sudden things just kind of got quiet after I heard him pick up the phone. And me and my sister are still talking, having our own side conversation, and all of a sudden I kind of hear like, you know, what's wrong, what's wrong? And all of a sudden I sort of like stop tuning out my sister on one of my ears and I start listening in, and I just hear like, what's wrong, like, you know? And so all of a sudden I just get really concerned, and I just am like, Rachel, you know, just hold on. So I stop talking to her and I go around the corner and I just see my dad, and I see this look on his face, almost like he was washed out with fear. And I was just like, I just stood there, I was like shocked, I didn't know what was going on. And I kind of just walked over there and I just stood quiet while I heard what he was talking on the phone. And I was like, Dad, what's wrong, what's wrong? And he was still talking on the phone, but wouldn't really say anything. And I was like, Dad, you know, what's wrong? And then he put down the phone by his shoulder and was just like, your Aunt Cindy called and your grandpa just died of a heart attack. And all I could think of at that second was, like, what? Like, I just came up with this lie earlier this morning, and it just came true, and all of a sudden I was just speechless. Like, I felt every single muscle in my body just become paralyzed and stiffened. And I just didn't know what to do. I just stood there in shock. And then my dad kind of just stared at me, but put the phone back up to his ear, and kind of kept going on with the conversation. And I didn't even know what to do, so I like slowly turned around and I just walked straight back up to my room. And the only thing, everything was just running through my mind. Like, I was confused. I felt like I just jinxed, you know, this family member, a really close family member. And I just went upstairs and honestly just started crying for about a couple hours in my room by myself. And I didn't even talk to my dad. I didn't even want to tell him about it. And then he walked up to my room a couple hours later, and we were just kind of talking about it, and broke the news to me that I am going to be spending the next 2 weeks in San Diego for my grandpa's funeral. So that was definitely the strangest day of my life, and